And he's like, man, Twisted is talking shit about you, bro. And I was like, what do you mean they're talking shit about me? He's like, they're jealous. They're jealous of your voice. They're jealous of how you deliver shit. And I was like, really, bro? Like, I was just with them, do you know what I mean? But I remember what I had thought. I remember the specific time he was telling me this. What I had thought is,
what's up, everybody? It's your boy Shane Smith here with another episode of Tales from the Pit. We have a very, very special episode today. We are joined with an original member of Dark Lotus, MARZ.
yes, sir.
Yes, MARZ, man. Thank you so much for doing this with us, man. One of the things that I really want to encapsulate with our channel is Juggalo history. There's so much of it to go into, man. That Dark Lotus album is one of the holy grails of Psychopathic Records, man. And we want to really do a deep dive on that project, your time around Psychopathic, you know, so we'll get right into it, man. I know that really you started to link up on the scene around the time of the Bazaar tour, correct?
Yeah.
You know, and I think I remember reading somewhere that at that time you paid $1,000 a show to get on back then.
Yeah, I believe so at that time I was signed to a label out of New York, and I had just released my first album. It was called Lung Fu Mo Shi, and it means the most powerful thing you can imagine doubled. And we were looking for tours, and I got a call from the label owner, and he was like, yo, we got this tour with the Insane Clown Posse. You want to do it? It's going to cost us 12 grand. It's 12 shows, $1,000 per show, you know? And I was like, I never heard of them. And I was like, is it hip hop? Is it rap? Like, what is it? And he's like, yeah, they're rap, you know? So I'm like, cool, let's do it. And I remember telling my brother, I got a younger brother, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna go on tour with somebody called the Insane Clown Posse. You ever heard them? And he was like, what? What the fuck? He's like, I love them, oh my God, right? So he started tripping and he put me onto it, you know, and I started listening to it, and I was like, oh, you know, this is cool. And that's how initially we linked up.
Okay.
And then during that tour, like I remember the first show, like I didn't know nothing about Juggalos. I didn't know there was a whole culture behind it.
Okay. I didn't know none of that.
I didn't know nothing, bro. So the first show that we came to, I remember, you know, outside, you know, I remember seeing everybody lining up, everybody chanting, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh shit, this is gonna be dope. And but what was crazy is that first show, we're backstage, and you know, ain't nobody there to see anybody except ICP.
Of course.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Nobody there to see the openers and stuff. And so the first show, there was a band before us, then ICP. And I remember we were backstage, the first show started, and they were like maybe into their second song, and it like abruptly stopped. And like I hear like, you know, whatever, scuffling and yelling and blah, blah, blah. And they come walking backstage, and one of the dudes' heads was busted. And the
opening band.
The opening act, the opening act.
Do you remember who it was?
I don't, bro. It was so long ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, what happened? And I guess at the venue, they had glass ashtrays, and they didn't remove them. Okay. And so somebody threw it, hit the dude in the head, and then they stopped. And I remember that show, it was the same vibe. Like when we went on stage, man, ain't nobody there to see you. You know what I mean? So they're just, Juggalos are mad, like, get off the stage.
And they weren't fucking with you?
No, at first. But so what happened, what I learned that night is, you know, they were being disrespectful, and I jumped into the crowd, and just like the dude that was being the most disrespectful, I ran up on him. And then he showed me respect. And when he kind of changed his tune, then everybody kind of chilled out. You dig?
I do.
And so that first tour, it was like that. So it was like every night I'm like, all right, that's what I gotta do. I gotta like jump into the crowd and like confront somebody, right? Whoever's the main antagonist, and once you would get their respect, you would get other people's respect, you know? But that's how I got onto ICP. That's how I met Jay and Shaggy. And I don't know if you want me to get into that story.
And I'll ask you, man. So, like, I believe I've read that you're coming off stage and they're back there, and like, tell me about that first interaction you guys have.
We had just got off stage, and we were.
And you had a band with you at the time. It wasn't just you.
Yeah, at the time I had a band. I mean, the stuff that I recorded was without a band. But then to go out on tour, because I was in a group before called Ministry.
I'm familiar, man. Yeah.
Which is like a heavy metal, industrial metal band, and we had a band, and bro, a live band, live is a different vibe than a hip hop show.
For sure.
Right? A DJ.
It was always a bit of a weird mix up when ICP would have the rock bands out and shit.
Yeah, it's a different energy, right?
Yeah,
and so we were backstage, we just performed, we were backstage, and they walked up, you know, Jay and Shags walked up and they were like, yo, Marz, like we just wanted to meet you. And Jay, you know, it was mad love, right? And he was telling me that he had been listening to my album, and he's like, it's different though. He's like, you're not a rock band rapper. He's like, you're a rapper, but you just happen to have a rock band.
For sure.
Do you dig what I'm saying?
I
the
do,
difference?
man. Yeah.
And he was right. And he just peeped that by himself.
For sure.
Because I did just do rap, and then I put the band together to play the stuff live.
Right.
You know, and so from that first night, it was all love, you know, and then we would start hanging out. We would start talking after the shows, you know what I mean? Like hanging out, getting to know each other until one day he asked me.
When you say you start hanging out, like tell me about that. You're going onto the bus to hang out with Jay? Like what's hanging out at that point entail?
At that point, it was still us just being backstage. We had separate buses and stuff.
Yep.
I mean, eventually it did turn into that though. But so
and you're hanging out talking music shit? Like, is he talking music with you? What do you?
We would just be talking shit, you know, like he's a funny ass dude. Him and Shaggy are fucking funny, man. Yeah. And just naturally, like they ain't trying to be funny. Like his just demeanor is funny, and so it's easy to be around that vibe.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Who knows what you talk about? You just talking shit.
Just clowning.
Yeah, we're just clowning on everything. Clowning on life. Clowning on the people, you know, in the room. Clowning on the audience, like whatever. And I remember one night, Jay was like, the same thing, like we were backstage and Jay was like, hey man, I want to ask you a question. Like, would you be interested in doing a project with us? Okay. And I was like, well, it depends. Like, what is it? Because like I said, I didn't know about that world.
Right. Even when your brother put you on a little bit, like what did that entail? Did you know Twisted?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I just knew, I think maybe it was their first album. The one with like, the song about the moon, like "Fuck You in the Moon."
It's not their first album, but that's the Great Malenko. It was probably their biggest all-time album.
So at that time, that's what I knew.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was a dope album.
For sure.
And so he's like, oh, we're gonna do a thing, and I'm like, well, I'm not sure that I fit your vibe. Like, what are you doing an album about? And he's like, it's dark. Like it's all about like dark magic and that type of shit. Okay. You know? And I was like, you know, at the time, that's what I was on. I was into a lot of magic stuff. Okay. I'll put it that way. I was into a lot of systems of magic.
Tell me more. Like, what do you mean by that?
There's a couple different systems of magic that I was studying. One was called the Golden Dawn. Okay. You know, and basically what it is self-mastery. Okay. Right? It's mastery of your mind, your thoughts, your spirit, and your life, because the concept is that as above, so below, as internal, so external. So everything in the world is a mirrored reflection of you. Okay. Right? Okay. So the vibe is, once you recognize that, you could start change. It's like a dream. Okay. Right? You ever been in a dream and you realize it's a dream for a second?
I don't know, man. I don't know if I have.
All right, so maybe one of you guys have. They call it lucid dreaming. So I've had a couple of them, but it's fleeting, right? So you'll be in a dream, and in your dream, you're like, oh shit, this is not real. Like, this is a dream. And you remember that you're dreaming. And then when you remember you're dreaming, you're like, this is a dream. I could do whatever I want here, right? Okay. And then like you go unconscious again. Okay. And you wake up somewhere, right? So the concept of the system of magic that I was studying is life is exactly like that. And you can wake up and realize, hey, this is a dream. All right. And I can control this, right? So you can control reality with your thoughts, with your focus, with your will. So that was the side that I was going on. So when Jay was like, hey, you want to do this Dark Lotus album? I'm like, what's it about? It's about dark stuff and magic. I'm like, bro, like I know that shit. You know, like I could do that.
And did he pitch it as a project with just him and Shaggy? Did he say, hey, this is
He
Twisted,
told me that it was this huge thing.
Did he said this is a huge deal?
He said, man, like
you knew it was a huge deal going in.
Not like that. You dig? Like I didn't know the history of it. Okay. And I think at the time, Like maybe it was years, like maybe 5 years they talked about it.
It was a huge build to
yeah, like it was years and years of them building up on it, you know, and he's like, look, like Juggalos have been waiting for this for so fucking long. I think you're the guy. Like I think you should be in it.
Did you ever feel any weirdness about like being sort of thrusted into the group like from that, or were you just excited for that opportunity?
No, I didn't feel weird. It felt, I felt comfortable.
Yeah, you fit for sure, man.
Yeah, like I just felt like, none of it felt, going into it, none of it felt, I was like, should I do this, should I not, you know? At that point, like me and him got along great. I loved him, I loved Shaggy. You know, I don't think I had met Twisted yet until we went to the studio.
I think Blaze was on some of them dates, the Bizarre Bazaar tour. Was that?
Yeah.
So had you met him?
Yeah, I believe I had met Blaze. But the rest of them I met when we first started recording.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm down, let's do this. You know?
And that was. And you were down. And was it, hey man, we're gonna pay you for this album? Any of that? Was it just, hey, get on this album with us?
No, it was. I got, you know, I didn't get publishing on the album, but I got paid for. The initial stuff, you know?
Gotcha.
Which is bad business move on my part.
100%, but the opportunity was.
Good business move on their part.
Sure.
Yeah, so I was just down to do it. I was just excited to do it, you know? And, you know, being exposed to that culture, you do feel the love there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, all of us, as humans, it doesn't matter like what race, religion, whatever, we want to belong to something. Like we want to have something, whether it's, you know, family, like literal family, blood family, like your parents, cousins, brothers, sisters, whatever. But a lot of times that dynamic is fucked up. So we're looking for something to belong to. That's why we join gangs. That's why we join these groups. That's why we join churches. That, you know what I mean? Like you're trying to find a place to belong. So for me, when I seen that, and I was like, dang, like the love that's there was dope.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So for me, it was easy.
It was enticing for you to come into that.
It was totally enticing. And it felt right. It felt like in that moment of time, I was supposed to do it.
When it came time to start the album, did you ever feel any pushback from because it was would you say it was a Jay idea to bring MARZ into Dark Lotus? Was that the way it was sort of, you know? Probably,
because I didn't know the rest of the dudes, you know what I mean? So I'm assuming, I never really thought about it.
Did you ever feel any type of animosity or any of those things, you know, because you hadn't been around and all of a sudden you were sort of thrust in?
I was probably too arrogant at the time to notice. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I was young and just full of shit. And like, I wasn't sensitive or aware enough to notice. So if like somebody was hating on me, like I was just like, I don't give a fuck. So I didn't even notice. So then, the tour ended, right?
Tour ends,
the Bizarre Bazaar tour ended.
And what's the logistics? Is Jay saying, hey man, I want you to come stay in Detroit and write, we're recording. What was that like?
Yeah, so the tour was ending. Jay pulled me to the side and he was like, hey man, let's do this album, you know, we got a break.
How long was the album's creation process? Was it fast?
Yeah, it was super fast.
Super fast,
We knocked it out.
So it came out in summer of 01, I believe. So it would have been maybe early 01 that this process is happening here?
You could probably look it up because it was whatever the break was between the first and the second leg of the Bizarre Bazaar tour. And in between there, when we were on that break, we knocked it out.
Right.
And I was still living in Chicago. Jay actually borrowed me his car.
Okay.
And he was like, here, bro, take my car, like, be in Chicago, drive over here on the days that we need you, just hold on to it, you know?
Okay.
And I did, and it was dope, man. I would drive, you know, it's whatever, a 5 or 6 hour drive to get to where their studio was at the time. And, you know, there was a slight issue once I started doing it, because I was signed to another label.
Of course.
So I had to get permission to do it.
Okay.
And they did give me permission.
They did?
They did.
They did. And did Jay know this?
But it caused tension.
Okay, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It caused tension between me and the label. And it caused tension between Jay. I mean, he knew I was signed to another label, but he wanted me to be on Psychopathic, but I was already signed.
Right,
July of 01.
In July of 01?
Okay. Well, July 01 is when the record comes out. No?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but, you know.
Right, yeah.
But how long before is because when an album's made, how long when the album's turned in before release?
It depends on the team you got together.
Sure.
Jay's team was pretty on it, bro. Like between the engineers and like how everything was working, it was fast, man.
Right.
Like we would get in there and knock out a song. Like, but you know, I don't know how long they had already been working on it because they already had the beats.
They already had, okay, and that's what I wanted to ask too. When you come in, Yeah, what songs are done? What?
So let's back up. So then the first leg of the Bazaar tour is over. He's like, we're gonna do this, you still down? I'm like, I'm down to do it. He's like, here bro, take my car. You could drive back and forth with it. You know, I was like, cool, that's love. And I did. I would come to Chicago for the stuff I had to do here, drive back there and stay with him at his house in a spare room, and then we would just go to the studio. And you know, one thing that really impressed me about Jay is he works all the time, bro. You know, at that point in my life, I do it now too. I didn't do it at that time. Like, we would be in the studio and we get done with a full day of studio, we'd come home and he'd still be writing.
Gotcha.
Right? Like, we'd come home and I'd be like ready to chill out and like just decompress. And he's like, yo, I got an idea for that song, you know? And he kept going. So mad respect to him as far as his work ethic.
Right.
It was super consistent, you know? So I show up, I had all my magic books. I had 2 duffel bags filled with like spell books and like different types of stuff, you know? And we started, bro. Like, they were playing me songs, they were playing me beats, and they're like, we got a hook for this one. This is the idea of this one. And so Blaze was there. Twisted was there. You know, ABK was there sometimes.
He was there sometimes.
He was there sometimes.
Just observing, or was he lending a hand in creating?
I don't know. It kind of looked. He might have been lending a hand to Twisted or Blaze. When they would play the beats, I would just get in my own zone and write my verse.
I'm with you.
And I remember one of the verses I wrote. I think it was the one about, I got visions of nuns getting raped with the barrels of guns and stuff, right?
Headache, man. Probably the best track, fucking legendary track, man.
Yeah, like, I just let whatever come out. Do you know what I mean? And a couple times it freaked me out too, and I would have to question myself, like, man, should I say that? You know? But I still said it. Like, that was, my vibe was like, just fucking do it. Like, just do it, and it is what it is. You know what I mean? Just like, I wasn't trying to steer it in any direction. I would just go internal and see what I saw, and then like document it. For me, that happens a lot of times. So the creative process is a lot. For me, when I write or when I create stuff, especially that album, it was more of me shutting up, going internal, and then watching. And it would almost be like watching something happen. Like, I would try not to put it in a direction. Like here's what I didn't do. I gotta write a dope ass song. It's gotta be about this. I gotta make it like, you know what I mean? I gotta fit in. I gotta try to be like they're being, you know what I mean? I didn't do none of that shit. Like, they would play the beat, I would get in my zone, and I would just go internal, and I would just start watching. And a lot of times it would come out like a movie. Like, another one that came out like that, there's a song about me. I don't remember the specific lyrics, but it was like, lips and assholes hanging from my earlobes.
For sure.
You know
of course.
I saw that shit.
A sack filled up with sliced out pussy holes.
Yeah, like, I saw that shit. I saw a dude on a horse. Right? And I just wrote it, right? So that was the process for me. I think when we did Headache, right? I get in, you know, they're like, who's got their verse done? Got it, blah, blah, blah. We go in there, and that was the first time that they heard that verse from me. So I go in there, and I go through it the first time, right? And I see the look on everybody's face, right? And it was just like confusion. What the fuck is he talking about? You know? And I can't remember who from Twisted, but they were like, oh man, I think you're gonna have to change some of those lines. You know what I mean? And I was like,
and they were for real. It wasn't a joke.
No, they were like dead ass serious. You know, and but they said it in a loving way. They weren't dicks about it. You know what I mean? They were just being honest, like, and communicating. You know what I'm saying? Not on some negativity, but they're just like, yeah, bro, like, dang, like, I don't know if you should say that. You know, like, maybe you want to change some of those lines. You know, and I'm like, well, which ones? Like, which ones exactly? And Jay was like, hell no, like, don't change none of that. Like, no. And I remember, I think it was Paul. One of them was like, hey, bro, he's like, I'm not going to hell over a song. For sure. And I'm like, well, it's just a song. You know, like, and so there was a little bit of discussion, like, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes of a dialogue between them and Jay and stuff, and we kept it. You know? But there was definitely a feeling of like,
did you like hold back going forward at that point? Do you feel like you just kept bringing it?
No, I didn't. I just did whatever came out.
And let me ask you this, man, because there's some people who throw theories out there about the creation of this project, but when it came to writing verses, Everybody wrote their own verses, they rapped?
Yeah.
Did Jay ever write anyone else's verses or any of the full songs?
Not that I saw.
Not okay.
No,
okay.
Like we were out there and we would write our own.
Okay.
Shit.
And like, what about creation of choruses? Is that just oh, hey, I got an idea for this chorus, yada yada yada, or hey, Jamie, I got that tell me about. I've always been curious about that creative. Tell me how that happens, how that goes down.
I mean, I didn't see. It wasn't like there was one person that was trying to like orchestrate the whole thing and it was only his ideas coming through. You know, Jay's very creative, and so he constantly has ideas. Some of his ideas got shut down. I remember one specifically where everybody was like, nah, bro, like that's fucking whack. Like,
what was it?
It was fucking, I don't even know if I should talk about it.
Oh, of course you should talk about that.
I mean, people ain't gonna believe me.
Tell me.
Right? It was about him talking about getting fucked. Like, right? He wanted to be shocking. He was just like, it was, I'm not, see, like nobody's gonna fucking believe me.
No, I think we believe it, actually.
But anybody that knows the other people that were in the studio, you know, and I don't know if he was playing or what, but he just wanted something to be fucking shocking, right? So he was like imagine this, like, he pushes me up against the wall and he's fucking me, and everybody, and I remember Twisted were like, yeah, homie, keep that for your solo album. Right? And we all laughed it off, and he let it go. So I don't know if he was talking shit or just like playing, whatever. It was like a funny moment. But there was times like that where he would bring stuff up, and we're just like, that's not a good idea.
Okay. Do you remember him shooting down any specific ideas that anyone brought, or anyone shooting down an idea you brought, or? No.
Besides that, besides Twisted just being like, that's just a little fucking. Weird.
When you talk about bringing spell books and all that, like how did you incorporate that? Is Alibaba the track? Like is that any the chorus? Is that anything you brought?
So to me, what I brought was that energy.
Sure.
Do you dig what I'm saying?
I do, absolutely.
And I feel like at that time, whether I would have brought the books or not, I had brought
it within.
Yeah, like I had brought that energy, which their energy was not that.
Okay.
Right? Like their energy their energy was more playful. So it was like chicken wing, bat wing, that, you know what I mean? Like it was more like playful, where my shit was more like fucking dark.
You felt the tone of the records to maybe start to change after you came in, or just those songs you recorded, or did they play you any songs that were already done? That they had?
Not that I remember. Like we would just like, like it was a long time ago.
Of course.
Like, as far as like those specifics, I just remember coming in, meeting everybody, and they were like, let's do it. Like here's a song. Like we got this idea for the chorus. Like here's the beat. You fuck with this? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like, But
what about Swarm, man? A track in particular where you guys rap like little short bars and then another guy jumps in. Like, tell me about how that song was written. Do you write your couple bars? Does someone rap that out to the room?
Yeah, I believe if I remember correctly, we would just do it in the room, like.
So you'd rap, I'd rap it aloud,
and then we're trying it out, like, does this work together? You know what I mean?
And when you record that, do you go, like, when that's done, do you leave and go, like, that's the shit? Like, did you guys get that feeling when you made these songs?
It felt good. It felt like what we were doing was something unique. You know what I mean? If it definitely, it just had its own vibe, bro. And and it's hard to predict that shit.
Of course.
Like it takes who knows what, man. It takes the planets aligning. It takes everybody being the right energy for that particular moment, working together. You know what I mean? Who knows what causes the magic to make something like, meh, it's all right.
For sure.
And the other thing is like, yo, this is gonna stand the test of time.
Right.
And it just everything lined up. And even me coming in and then, dipping out, that was like some serendipity, the universe shit.
You get that, you're there. You said the record only took a couple months of you. How often?
I don't even know if it took.
How often would you go back? Like you're going a couple days a week?
Yeah.
Like when you say you would go stay at Jay's house, are you staying in Detroit for days at a time?
Yeah. Staying for a couple days at a time. And that was when. So as we were doing that, Joe had asked me, once we got done like maybe 3 or 4 songs, and he liked them. And he really, at least this is what he told me, he loved my voice. And he thought that it was different than what they had. He loved my aggression and my delivery on it, because I was fucking a little crazy at the time, you know what I mean? And he enjoyed that shit. So he was my hype man. We'd be driving home, and he's like, man, that shit was fucking dope, man. Your voice is killing it, like, oh, fuck it. As we were doing it, the second leg of the tour was coming on, and I wasn't gonna be on it, you know what I mean? And he was like, man, why don't you be on the second leg of the Bizarre Bazaar tour? I won't charge you. Like, come with, be on the bus. Like, you don't even need to fucking bring your crew, be on the bus with us. I'll fucking let you be on the bus for nothing, won't charge you for any of the shows, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, for real? You know, and he's like, yeah. And we did, and it was dope.
Okay, so you went out on the second leg.
I went out on a second leg, didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then, because you were asking, like, were we on the bus together?
Yep.
We were, and then like we just, when we got tighter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I remember like at one show we had bought or before a show we went and bought BB guns, and then me and Shaggy would have these fucking BB gun fights in the bus shooting each other and shit. Just stupid shit, man. Like, stupid boy shit.
Was the record done at that point? Like,
I don't think it was done yet.
Are you still partially you're partially creating it at that time still?
When we were on tour, we didn't. We just were on tour.
Right, of course. But the album was, you know, partially finished.
To be honest, I don't remember.
Okay.
I think after that second leg, I think we still recorded some songs. And so we did the second leg of the tour. It went dope because at that point, I think we did Fuck Them.
Okay.
And so they had released that.
Yeah.
So then Juggalos kind of knew more who I was.
Yep.
So then the vibe was completely different. You know what I mean? Like, there was crazy love.
Okay.
From like that was, I feel like once my foot was in that door, the Juggalos fully accepted it.
It fit, man. Let me ask, I just want to circle back a little bit. I asked about Lung Fu Moshi. I was just curious because I feel like that album, it has a feel and a sound to it that I feel like has a place in the Juggalo world. And it's like, what was the audience you were targeting with the music you were doing there? Because I feel like you may not have known about the Juggalo space, but your whole shit fit.
Yeah, I didn't even.
Was it for rap kids? Were you making music for rock fans?
I didn't even know.
You didn't know?
I just was making music because I was in a studio years ago, and as I was working on my music at the time, because I liked hip hop, but I loved rock music, you know. But I kind of like swayed away from rock as my life went on, you know what I mean? I just didn't like the lyrics of rock music, but I loved the energy of it. And so while I was working in the studio, one day, this band came in called Ministry. They're like an industrial rock legends. Al, the singer, he's a legend, man.
Yeah.
And I was in the studio, and I was out front, and I saw Al, and he came in and looked at me, and he was like, "What's up, man?" I'm like, "What's up?" You know, I'm Bobby. And for people that don't know, you know, most people call me Bobby.
Why?
None of that is my real name.
Yeah, well, I've learned that over time, but you were always Bobby MARZ.
Bobby MARZ,
you know what I mean?
Because my real name is Zlatko.
For sure.
Nobody can say that shit.
Yeah, we can say it.
Yeah, and no.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You can. I don't mind it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But when I was little, so right now I don't care. I don't care what people call me. But when I was little, in grammar school, I was just like, man, nobody could say my name. They would butcher it. So I'm like, what's a good American name? Bobby. All right, like I'll go with Bobby.
Okay.
And then later I got the name MARZ because I was a little bit, I had some psychological stuff that I was dealing with.
Okay, that's where MARZ comes from.
Yeah, if you guys want, I could tell you that later. But so I was in the studio.
Yeah.
I meet Al from Ministry. He went back there and he asked somebody, "Who's that up there?" You know what I mean? And they're like, "Oh, he's here working on his album." And he's like, "I want to talk to him." So he called me in and he's like, "This happened like." Another thing like that felt like destiny, just like with Jay.
This story, I know it. It sounds like destiny.
You know, he was just like, "Hey, I'm working on this album. I just fired my engineer. Do you want to be the engineer? I'll pay you this amount of money, you know, cash a week." And I was like, "Man, I'm not an engineer, bro." And he's like, "Either am I. Like, we could figure it out together." And I saw like how much drugs he was doing.
Yeah.
Which was a lot.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in that world.
For sure.
Like I was in the weed world.
For sure.
You know, and like maybe some mushrooms and some acid. I wasn't in the heroin crack world. And so I was like, but I was dealing at the time. And so I was like, can I deal out of here? And he's like, you can do whatever the fuck you want out of here, you know? I was like, cool, let's do it. And I remember people were so mad at me at that studio because they had like A-level engineers.
Okay.
And he didn't want them, he hired me, right? And I didn't know how to engineer. So as that went on, like I said, he smoked a lot of crack. He did heroin. I'd never been around that.
Yeah.
So that first night we were there, you know, like he just started shooting up in front of me, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, do you know what I mean? Like that didn't seem normal to me, right? And he's like bleeding, and like was nasty, and then he's smoking crack and shit, and I'm like, oh fuck. So that first night I worked with him, you know, he had been smoking crack and shooting up all night, and I thought, this dude's gonna die. Like, he's gonna die like this tonight. I'm gonna be in here with this dead ass body. And he partied that hard every night that I knew him. It was crazy, bro.
For sure.
And I never touched that stuff. And he tried to get me to do it. Like he tried to get me to do it. It was crazy. Like we would be playing music, and you're up for hours and hours, and it's loud, and he would have a crack pipe, and he would just go like this. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here, man. You know that ain't my thing. So anyway, so then as we're working on that album and the Ministry album, he was knotted out so many times. Like he'd do heroin, and then he'd knot out, and I was just playing guitar, and he didn't even open his eyes, and he was like, who's that playing guitar? And I was like, it's me. He's like, you want to play guitar in the band? I'm like, yeah, sure, bro. He's like, all right, you're a new guitar player. And I thought, dude is high.
Of course,
He's never gonna remember this, right? Months go by, never mentioned it again, right? We never talked about it. Months and months go by. We get done with the album, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna have the other guitar player like teach you the songs. And I was like, oh, like you really want to do this? Like he's like, oh yeah. He's like, I remember what I said, you know? And so then I went on tour with Ministry. And when I saw that energy, bro, live, I don't know if you've ever been to a Ministry show.
I haven't, no.
It's insane, bro. They have their own, it's not quite like Juggalo, you dig, but there's this like rabid fan base that love them so much. And the energy, man, of that heavy music, you know, with live drums, with guitars. So when we got off that tour and I went back to writing my stuff, which back to your question, like who did I write Lung Fu Moshi for? I was just like, oh, regular hip hop beats just don't do it for me no more. I need something heavy, you know, and now I had been playing guitar for a whole tour, you know, like it just came natural. So I started programming drum beats and then putting heavy guitars over them and rapping on that. And it wasn't preconceived. It wasn't like, this is my target market audience, which that's a good way to do it, because then you know who the hell you're doing it for, right?
For sure.
But I think right now, the way reality is working, right? When I did that and when I was making music, it was from an artist perspective. I was just creating. For sure. I wasn't trying to plan out or like manipulate success.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
I'm with you, man.
I was just like, oh, I love making art. Like, this is what I did. You know what I mean? You like it?
For sure.
You know? So it fitting the Juggalo stuff, it might be because it was irreverent. Because it was like, fuck you. You know what I mean? It had no leash on it. I think it had a certain energy to it. You know, so it might not have been like the exact same vibe. It wasn't like carnival-y.
For sure.
You know, but it was that same energy, the same attitude of like, man, fuck everybody. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And you know.
All right, and we'll circle back, you know, to Tales from the Lotus pod. You know, when the album first, let's talk about Juggalo Family, legendary track, you know, iconic. Your part on that, you know. Do you remember?
I remember writing that.
Do you?
I remember where I was sitting.
Take me into the studio that day that song's created. Like, was there a vibe in there?
Was a vibe there. There was a vibe there, and like Jay like had talked to all of us, and at that point, if I'm not mistaken, that might have been the last thing that we did, was that song. If it wasn't the very last one, it was definitely like second to last, but I think from the way I remember it, it was the last one. I remember where I was sitting, all of us were in the room. You know, we had been on a couple tours together, and I had got to know everybody, you know, and I still felt, you know, I didn't know the history of all that stuff. And so where I was coming from was I felt like that was like my pledge of loyalty.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like here, I got love from you guys, so I'm gonna give you love back. I got love from all the Juggalos, so I'm gonna write something to show them and give them love back and just show you that where I'm at with this. You know what I mean? So for me, it came from a purely, I just want to give back and make you feel what I'm feeling right now. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like that's where that came from me, and I think that song turned out dope. You know?
Yeah, legendary, man. Was there a part when the album's finished, you know, and it's all completed? Was there ever a moment where you guys sat down collectively and listened?
No, not that I was there anyway. But like I said, you know, I would be there for 3, 4, 5 days at a time, and then dip back to Chicago, and then dip back. But after it was finished, then I remember we were gonna do The Gathering, and I got asked to do The Gathering, which was the only show that.
Of course. The legend of that Gathering was.
Were you guys there by any
I wasn't there, man. My first Gathering was in '03. Obviously, that was a big one to miss. Talk to me about it, man. Like, so the plan, they come to you, hey, we want to perform this at The Gathering. Let's rewind it a little bit. Had they started to do the talks of, we want MARZ to come to Psychopathic?
We did, like Jay. So here, I'll back up even a step further. So before we did the second leg of the Bizarre Bazaar tour, and I was staying with Jay, he was telling me, you know, hey, come on this next leg of the tour with us. You don't have to bring a band. Like, you could just bring your hype man, which I had a hype man at the time, Chaos, and he's like, be a part of it. It's like a collective thing. So maybe paint your face.
Right.
And now for me, that wasn't my thing, you know. And bro, he asked me to do it so many times.
He loves painted faces, man.
And it just wasn't my thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
did you before that Lotus performance? Had you painted your face? Did you do it?
So watch. So this is how. Well, this is how it happened before the second leg of the Bizarre Bazaar tour. And I was just like, nah, bro, that's your thing. You know what I mean? Like, and he's like, but it's gonna like fit, because we'll all be like a thing. And so with that, it also started being a thing of like, on that tour, a lot of juggalos were asking about me. Like, and he told me that shit. He sat me down. He's like, man, this is kind of becoming a problem, because every time I go on the fucking net, they should be talking about ICP, Twisted, fucking, and they're talking about you, but you're not on the label. Okay. I'm like, but you knew that.
For sure.
Like, you know I'm not on the label, but you asked me to do it. Do you know what I'm saying? And so I could tell, like, there was starting to be an issue. Okay. You know? And I don't know, you know, obviously the obvious issue would be money, because he's like bringing me to the Juggalos, but he's not gonna make.
I'm with you.
Do you dig?
I do.
Like, he's giving me the whole fan base.
Right.
Well, he'd be making money off the Dark Lotus stuff, but not off of my own shit,
of
right?
Course.
So I could tell that started being an issue, and I'm like, well, I'm on a fucking label, bro. Like, you knew that, though. He's like, I know, but now I'm seeing how it's unfolding, and it's kind of might be a problem. I'm like, so what do we do? Okay. You know? And he's like, let me think about it, you know? And so as that was happening, he's like, come on, paint your face. You know what I mean? Like paint your face, paint your face. And I'm like, nah, bro, nah. And so I don't know. He asked me definitely more than 5 times. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't count it, but it would be on the rides, like going to the studio in the morning or coming.
Did he have an idea for what your paint would be?
No, he just wanted me to be part of it, right? Like, he just wanted me to figure it out, pick a character and fucking play the character so that it looks like a cohesive unit. For sure. Right? Because I can't remember who went on the second leg of the tour. Maybe it was Blaze, or I don't remember, man. It's been so long. As far as like who the other acts were, but he wanted it to all be like a unit. And so I remember the morning, we were leaving for the studio, we picked up Shaggy, and he did it again, like as we're driving, and he's like, man, Shags, tell Mars, man, like he's fucking paint his face, you know? And Shaggy was like, man, do it, bro, do it. I'm like, but that's your guy's thing, you know? And they're like, nah, it's cool. I'm like, you don't think that's gonna look like I'm biting you? You know, like I'm biting your style? And they're like, no, it's not. It's just for this tour. You ain't gotta do it afterwards, da-da-da. And I was just like, fuck it, I'll do it. Okay. You know? And it kind of like wore me down. Who got me to do it was Shaggy. Okay. Like, I felt like Shaggy's vibe on it, I was just like, was the final kind of straw. Like, I was resisting it, and then I was just like, fuck it, like, all right, I'll do it.
And then what was the paint?
Pain was from a movie about 2 brothers that were serial killers. Okay. And you know, and I remember, like, I was trying to figure it out, like what to do. Like, I came back to Chicago, and I had my guy Chaos that was gonna go out on tour as a hype man, and I remember I went to the movies, and I rented a movie, and I saw it. Like, I watched the movie, and I was like, yo, this is it. Like, let's do this, you know. And he thought it fit. When I showed it to Jay and them, they thought it fit. So, so we did it. And so when I went on the second leg of the tour, me and Chaos painted our face. You know, and for me, that was the first time ever doing that. But it was dope. It was fun.
Do you felt like it created more of a connection with were Juggalos fucking with you more with face paint?
Probably.
Do you think it mattered? That's a great debate in the scene, man. Like, Do you believe an artist needs to have a definitive image in the Juggalo space?
I think an artist in general does, bro.
Okay.
Like you know whatever that image may be, you know, because when it's too much all over the place, which is me.
Sure.
Because I have so many influences and so many different styles and stuff that I like, it's hard for me to stay in one thing for too long.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And so it definitely helps. Again, it helps on the finance side. It helps on the business side for it to be packaged correctly.
Right.
And packaged within a box.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
it's easier to sell.
for sure. When it comes to, man, you know, with packaging, like, one thing I feel like Psychopathic always did well was their presentation of, you know, even Dark Lotus, that album, you know, I remember going to the record store and it was hard to find. It was difficult to find, you know. Did you have, like, when you saw the packaging and all of that, do you remember, you know, did you think, oh, this is the shit, you know? Did you, when it comes to that point, is there...
I did. I thought it was dope, but I thought it was dope, but it went in line with everything they did. Like, I'm not sure who the mastermind was behind that. You know, I don't know if it was, I can't remember the dude right now that was running the label at the time. I can't remember his name.
The manager?
Yeah.
Alex?
Alex, yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
And what, did you have any dealings with Alex?
Yeah, but it was just business stuff, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like camaraderie or like we didn't hang out and kick it and stuff. It was all business stuff. Like, here's the contract. Like, this is what you're gonna get paid. Like, so I don't know who, or was it a combination of people, but there was genius. Not only, you know, it's one thing to make genius music, right? Or like to make music that's unique and different and outside the box, but good. Like, you can make unique and different, and it'll be whack as hell, right? Sure. But for it to be unique, different, and good, and have its thing, that's one thing. Another thing is then to be able to package it. For sure. And present it. That's a whole other level of genius, right? So all of that came together in that moment of time, you know? Yeah.
And we'll circle to the, you know, you talk about that gathering performance. Talk us to when they first throw that idea your way. And was there already, because you had talked about the record label issue kind of starting to slip in, was there starting to be some issues, if you will, or was it all love at that point still?
I started feeling stuff at the gathering.
That gathering that year?
I started feeling like, man, there's gonna be a problem, you know?
How so? What made you feel that?
So here, one, like, there was no contact with me, like what songs we were gonna do, right? So when we got on stage, I didn't know any of their old songs. I didn't know any of Twisted songs or ICP songs, right? So they started doing those songs, and I'm just like, I don't know a fucking lyric to the songs. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm trying to like jump around and hype it and like, do you know what I mean? Like, be a part of it. Like, yo, you should have told me like we're gonna fucking play these songs. I would have practiced these songs, listened to these songs, so I know what's up. You know, so that felt kind of weird. And then when I went on stage, it was still dope, but I could feel like something's not being communicated here. Right? Like, how come I didn't know like we were gonna be doing other songs? I knew we were gonna be doing a Dark Lotus performance. Right? But now you're playing like a lot of other songs that I have no idea about, you know? But all that was happening in my head as it was going down. And then when my set came on, I had a bunch of girls, bro. Like, we had got like, I didn't count them, but there was 30 or 40 girls topless on stage with like MARZ stickers on their nipples and stuff. And I remember like there was a problem. Like, I don't remember who it was specifically, but it was in the ICP camp that was running the stuff. They were like, you can't do that. You know? All right. But I did it anyway. You know what I'm saying? And I just kind of like bum rushed the stage anyway, because they were telling me I can't bring the girls up. And I just kind of like forced my way up there and performed. You know? And we did that performance, and it was dope. It was like great. It was my first experience at a gathering as far as like the culture and stuff. There was a bunch of back scene stuff that was happening that was crazy. Like, I could tell there was tension happening between a bunch of different people, and but if it didn't specifically involve me, I kept out of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if someone's having a problem, ain't none of my fucking business to be like, what's happening? You know what I mean? Like, what's the problem? Like, handle your problem. I'm gonna go over here. You know, so we did that show. I came back to Chicago, and I started hearing stuff like, oh man, like Jay's
from Jay. Oh, you're hearing, who are you hearing from?
I'm hearing from other people in his camp, right?
Okay.
Like I'm not gonna name names, but I get some calls like Jay's like having a problem with you, you know what I mean? Like all these juggalos just talking about you, you know, and this and that. So I called Jay and I was like, hey, and he picked up, you know, and I was like, yo, what's up? You know, he's like, what's up, man? I'm like, hey, bro, I'm hearing a lot of things and I just want to make sure that whatever's being said is said from me to you and from you to me, and not a bunch of other people like trying to cause shit. Like, do me and you have a problem, you know? And not in a like flexing on him way. Of course. You know, I was like loving, you know, and just like no, for real, like I could feel this tension. Like, is there anything wrong, you know? And he's like, well, you know, because he'd already told me about the issue with the label, and I'm like, yeah, but you knew that, you know, you knew that, you know what I'm saying? And he's like, I don't know, you know, and I was like, all right, how about this? Who's at the studio? Because I called him and he was at the studio. And he's like, everybody's here right now. Like Blaze was there, Twisted, ABK. I'm like, bro, I'm gonna hop in the car. I'm gonna come there right now, bro. Okay. You guys be there? Yeah. He's like, bet.
And this is post-gathering. What's this timeline of this? Like a week after?
Probably, yeah. Probably a week after the gathering. Okay. It wasn't long. It wasn't like months. You know what I mean? And I hopped in the car, bro. I drove 5 fucking hours. Okay. I show up to the studio. Nobody's there. Rude Boy was there. Okay. Rude Boy's there. Yeah. And then what happens? I was like, yo, where's everybody at, bro? And he just like looked down and he's like, you know how it goes, bro. Later. You feel they specifically left so they wouldn't have to deal with whatever you were coming there to have. Yeah, you know, I don't know how honest and truthful you want me to be about this stuff. 100% honest and truthful. So, like I told you earlier, I got no beef with anybody. Of course. Right? But this is what happened. Yes. Right? So while we were recording... This is the story people need to hear. So while we were recording the album, one of the things that Jay started telling me was several times when we would be driving home and he'd be like listening back to it and shit, to the songs, you know? And he's like, man, Twisted is talking shit about you, bro. And I was like, what do you mean they're talking shit about me? He's like, they're jealous. They're jealous of your voice. They're jealous of how you deliver shit. And I was like, really, bro? Like, I was just with them. Do you know what I mean? But I remember what I had thought. I remember the specific time he was telling me this. What I had thought is, oh, that's fucked up. Because those are your boys. And you're telling me this about them. Mm-hmm. You dig what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I don't even know you like that yet. Like, you guys have been together for years, but you telling me this. So it made me kind of like put some boundaries up with him. Okay. Do you dig what I'm saying? Absolutely. Like not trusting like what you're saying, you know? Uh-huh. And was this the first point you felt like he had been sort of dishonest with you or not genuine? That specific time was the first. I mean, all of us, you know, talk shit or of course do some goofy shit sometimes, right? But that was the first time like I looked at him different because I didn't believe him. Uh-huh. Because I thought the way that I was with Twisted, I thought they could have just said some shit. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't feel like the vibe, like there was all this hidden shit. Okay. Do you know what I mean? Okay. I could have felt like they could have just said some shit, like they did with the song, right? Like they did when they were like, oh, bro, like you gotta change those lyrics. Right. You feel me? For sure. I didn't think they were gonna be like, hold it in, and then when I walked out of the room, they'd be like, that bitch motherfucker. Right. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't feel like that to me. And so, you know, he started telling me that about them, and I was like, all right, cool, you know. I'm like, damn, why didn't they say that to me, though, you know? And he's like, oh, they ain't gonna say it to you. I'm like, all right, cool. Time goes, we get done with the album, all that shit happened. I go to see them, nobody's there. Right. And I felt super disrespected. 100%. Because I didn't come there to fight nobody. I didn't come there to argue with nobody. I came there to just be like, how do we fix this? Like, what's happening? You know what I mean? Like, what's the tension from? You know? And that was it. That was the last time I actually saw Jay one time after that. But I did not like him after that. But let me ask you this, okay? So when you go there and it's just Rude Boy,
Do you say, hey, I'm so disrespected, I can't even attempt to reach out and make contact again? Like, was there another moment to try to
I was cool with Rude Boy, and he was cool, bro, and he just...
Or Twisted, you said there was love you felt from Twisted. Was there ever a moment like, hey, I'm gonna reach out to these guys? Or you're just like, fuck it?
I was like, fuck it. Because at that point then, I thought, fuck all of them.
Okay.
Do you dig what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because but I don't know if Jay told him I was coming. Do you dig what I'm saying? Sure. From my perspective, all you motherfuckers knew I was coming.
Yeah.
I just drove 5 hours to come and just talk to you like a man so we could fix this. And all you motherfuckers left, fuck all of you. Yeah. You dig what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I don't want shit to do with none of y'all. Like, I felt like, fuck all of this. Like, I don't give a fuck about this. You know, I still have my own shit. Like, I'm doing my own shit. And, but I found out later, so I still don't know. They probably didn't even know I was coming. You dig?
Right.
I don't think Jay told everybody. Right. In hindsight. And so at that point, I was like, all right, cool, fuck all that. And I kept moving, you know. I kept moving. I ended up getting signed to Geffen Interscope with Korn on Jonathan Davis' label. So I just kept it moving. But I did see Twisted again, and talk to
like
Twisted.
Years later you're talking, or or similar time frame?
Similar time frame. Probably almost a year. Okay. Right? Okay. I did the album with Korn. Yeah. And again, we're looking for a tour, and the Twisted tour comes up. Okay. Right? Okay. And so my management reaches out to them. I'm like, yo, like, hit up Twisted, you know? So they reach out to Twisted management, talk with Twisted. They're like, yeah, let's have them on.
Is this the Green Book tour, or is this Mirror Mirror? Do you remember? I feel like
I think it was the Green Book. I never ended up doing it.
Yes.
Never ended up doing it. We end up booking that tour, like, did all the paperwork, did all this shit. Show up to the first night, and they're like, yeah, whoever the fuck was there, they're like, you guys ain't on this tour anymore. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, you guys are off the tour. I'm like, fuck you mean we're off the tour, man? You know, where's Twisted at? I go to their bus, I go in, and they were just bummed, bro. They were just like, man, homie, Jay won't let us do it. Like, he made us take you off the tour. And at that point, you know, their energy together, even, I could tell, like, you know, even during the Dark Lotus album, I could see the energy. Do you dig what I'm saying?
No, like, tell me, like, the energy from, like, you're saying you felt Twisted's energy was negative, or you felt there was negative energy between those parties?
There was negative energy between those parties, between Jay and Twisted. Okay. I didn't really feel it between Shaggy and them, but I could tell, like, there was already issues.
Do you have an instance of something that transpired that made you feel that?
I mean, I could tell you what they told me, right?
What's
that night, so I'm on their bus, and I'm like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, what happened, you know? And they're like, bro, we got to get off this fucking label. Like, we can't do it. He told us when he found out you were going to be on the tour, he's going to pull all the funding for the shows, and we can't do the fucking shows unless we took you off. I'm like, for real? Yeah. You know? So watch what they tell me. And they're like, look, we ain't never had a problem with you, but we gotta ask you something. And I'm like, what? They're like, Jay told us while we were recording the Dark Lotus album, you were always talking shit about us. I was like, motherfucker. Yeah. That's the shit he told me you the fuck were saying. Yep. You know? Yeah. And they knew it, bro. So I was like, bro, he told me the fucking same shit. And they were like, we knew it. We fucking knew it. Like, bro, we knew you wasn't saying that shit. I'm like, I knew you wasn't saying that shit. Yeah. You dig? Yeah. And so that night, and then we party, we hung out, and you know,
we Twisted. You hung out.
We Twisted.
Yeah.
On their bus, we hung out, and the energy between me and them always has been that. I got no beef with you. I ain't never had beef with you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We're cool. Yeah. And I think to this day we're fucking cool. You know, that was the last time I saw them. Yeah. But we ain't got no, you know what I mean? Like, not that I fucking know of. Right. Like that was it, you know? And then I kept it moving. So here, let me back up. I don't know if they re-released Dark Lotus before that or after that.
Before the tour you're talking?
Before that meeting with Twisted in their tour bus for their tour.
Let's think back here. Green Book tours 03, 04. Because that had two legs as well. Do you remember which one it was?
It was the first leg.
First leg? Yeah. That's going to be...
The reissue for Dark Lotus came out in 2002.
So when that shit came out, when it came out, right? Yeah, so I drove over there, they weren't there, and then however long, how many ever weeks or month or whatever later, I heard they re-released it and took my shit off. Right? And I remember listening to it, and I heard Jay say,
you never was Lotus and you noticed.
And you noticed, bitch, right? I was pissed, bro. And so I wrote 2 songs. One was The Real Dark Lotus, and one was Diary of a Madman.
I don't know if I know that.
Oh, bro,
one.
Diary of a Madman is a fucking monster. And I just had someone send it to me the other day because I couldn't find it. Now, in Diary of a Madman, I fucking dissed ABK too.
Okay.
And ABK never did shit to me. So I apologize, my brother. And I've talked with him since then. Because, you know, it's just from my perspective, like, oh, all of you motherfuckers, do you know what I'm saying?
Got the same fuckery from him.
Yeah, well, as far as like, ABK's on it now, Jay's on there with ABK, so Jay calling me a bitch, that's the same as ABK calling me a bitch.
For sure.
And, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so you got to hear Diary of a Madman. I'll email it to you.
Yeah, please.
So I had released those 2 diss songs, you know, and for the most part, I think after that I was just like.
And did you have, because let me talk to you about that, like the diss songs, were you like, I don't give a fuck about this Juggalo, I'm gonna blow this shit up? Like, were you so, and because you said you had a bit of an ego back then, a little bit, were you just on some, I've been so disrespected, I don't give a fuck, like I'm coming after him?
Yeah, I don't feel like I ever came against Juggalos.
Yeah, I agree, but Jay,
coming against him.
Exactly.
It is coming.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
And some of the shit you said, on the 6 Jokers card, like that.
It was off for Jay, bro.
I feel you, but Juggalos took some of that shit to heart in those days.
And I would have too.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
But I felt like I'm gonna try to like poke at the fucking thing that's the most important to you.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because I felt like, and I still do feel like, the Dark Lotus album wouldn't have been what it was if I didn't bring that energy on it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
Like it would have been something.
Sure.
Maybe it would have been better. You know, I don't know. And I'm not saying it couldn't have been better, but it wouldn't have been that without my energy on it. And so because of that, I'm just like, oh, you think that I'm not that? Well, I'm taking all of your shit. Right. You're none of this. You dig what I'm saying?
I feel
That's why I sampled the movie, fucking just trying to be like, fuck all of your shit. Like, I'm taking all of it. You're none of this. I'm this. You see?
I do.
You see the play?
I feel you, man.
And I figured like coming after him, you know, and I never was like, man, fuck Juggalos and fuck, because I don't know, like I never felt like that. How the fuck can I be like, fuck all of you when I don't know you? Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know you to like this. I guess I could have, just to be a dick to everybody like that. But my thing was specifically him, and then whoever was the closest to him that I thought might be a part of it, fuck you too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And just to get that energy out, especially because he was lying, bro. Like, I remember one thing I heard, I think it was in his book or in an interview or somewhere, he had said that one thing that upset him about me was that I bit their style and started painting my face. Bro. For sure. Now think, like, I want you to picture my perspective. Now I told you, like I shared with you, how many times he asked me to do that, and I didn't want to do it, and he fucking talked me into it with Shaggy's help. So I ended up fucking doing it, right? And then later, now I'm no longer involved, and I know the only voice that's gonna be heard is his. And how many fucking people now are gonna think that I actually did what he's saying? That shit irked me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
like,
bro.
Like,
still to this day, I guarantee people think that.
Hell yeah, they think
you know
that. You know?
Right.
Now I don't give a fuck.
Right.
But then it bothered me. I'm like, oh man, like fucking you has to ask me so many times, bro. Talk me into it over how many fucking days and weeks.
Right.
And now you're saying I stole that shit? That's some fucking shit that, you know what I mean? Like knotted me up.
For sure.
So, but on, so we'll get out of that. But on a positive tip, yeah. So then I released those songs, and I'll tell you about ABK because I ended up doing a show somewhere like Detroit or.
Well, he actually wound up being the first guy to leave Psychopathic. I think he's 04. I want to say ABK left.
ABK is one of the coolest dudes in the world, bro. His energy, his vibe, at least with me, it was just fucking so genuine, so like loving and kind, not on no bullshit.
Yeah, not caught up in the bullshit.
Not on no fucking, I gotta see, do you really mean what you're saying to me?
Right.
You know, and I remember I had released that song, and then we ended up fucking on a show together, and we were backstage, and I saw him, you know, and you know, my energy towards him, like I wasn't trying to fight him or nothing, but it probably wasn't nice.
Okay.
It was probably a little bit standoffish.
Okay.
Do you dig? And I remember how he just disarmed me, bro.
Really?
Like I walked up to him like, what's up, bro? You know? And his demeanor and his energy towards me totally fucking disarmed me. I'll tell you a quick story on a side note.
Yeah, please.
About how, and this may be to describe disarming me, because I used to be a little bit of an asshole. I could have been, right?
Sure.
Not all the time,
For sure.
but sometimes.
Okay.
And we were on a ministry tour, and we were in a hotel in Colorado, and there was a hot tub outside, and they were fucking being loud, and there was like maybe 20 people around this hot tub, and they were like all sitting around, like men and women, you know, and like some were like kind of in the hot tub, and I was drunk and high, and they were just annoying me, right? Just fucking, I was an asshole, bro. And I'm like, I'm gonna go fuck with all of them.
Okay.
And I walked outside there, and I just walked up into their party, and I fucking cannonballed into the hot tub and splashed everybody, and come up and like waiting for somebody to say some shit, right? The fucking first guy that said some shit to me, he was like, dang, bro, do you need dry clothes? I got extra clothes for you, bro. He's like, I got these pants, I bet they would fit you there. I felt like such a stupid motherfucker. Do you dig what I'm saying?
sure.
Totally disarmed me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, not that energy at all, right? So anyway, back to ABK. That's what ABK did to me. You know, that's what it felt like. And so, same thing with ABK that was with Twisted. Like, we talked, like, man, I ain't got no problem with you.
And you guys talked about Lotus, the fallout, the situation.
He was like, dude, I had nothing to do
Had
with
he
that.
left Psychopathic at that time yet?
I don't know if he left.
Okay.
But I know that they weren't on good terms. Man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They weren't on good terms. Like, all that, Psychopathic was a machine. Right? And so they were brilliant at fucking make an album, package it, market it to the Juggalos. Make an album, package it, market to the Juggalos. So once you're part of that machine and you see it sucks for you, it's hard to get out though.
Yeah.
Because once you leave that machine, you're just back to ground zero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the people that did stick around, they stuck around long enough, or as long as they could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before, like, they were just like, no, man, I can't do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Did you ever, after that fallout, did you still pay attention to the scene? Were you following anything, or did you say, I gotta get away?
Oh no,
from
like
that?
I was gone, bro. I was like on my own shit. Like I just felt like, oh, okay, that's not for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I didn't cater. Here's one thing that I did not do and that I never did. Try to cater my stuff and like take the Juggalo fan base for myself. I did not do that shit. I just kept going, you know what I mean? I kept making my style of music. Like I went and got signed with Geffen Interscope, Jonathan Davis. I went on tour with Korn. And I just kept it pushing, you know. Now some of the Juggalos came along.
For sure.
You know, but it wasn't because I was doing a Juggalo thing or riding on the coattails of it. Like, you remember me? I'm from Dark Lotus. You know what I'm saying? I never mentioned that shit. I never, you know what I mean? Did none of that because it felt like such a disrespectful and weird.
The way it ended.
It just was so fucking weird. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I just thought like, all right, like fuck, like it's like a weird breakup and I'm not calling you again. You know what I'm saying?
And if you never ever thought at one point, you know, hey, I'm gonna reach back out to Jay and I'm gonna try to have clarity on that was never something that you felt like, especially once you later in your life when you were, you know, a different person. You never had those moments?
I had so much going on at that time because I was running my shit. I had my crew and I had like my own dreams and like aspirations and things. And I was running all of that and I just felt like, fuck it. Like, you know what I mean? That shit didn't work. Like, you know, I just kept it pushing. You know, later after that, you know, I had a crazy experience where I ended up becoming a Christian for 10 years, you know, recovering Christian right now.
For sure.
And then that would be a crazy story about how I came out of that. You know, I love God, but as far as like organized religion, I'm okay without it. When I was fully like in Christian world, there was another song released where he dissed me.
What was that disc, dude?
Like 8 foot, 6 foot, 7 foot or some shit.
Yeah, yep, you're right.
I was telling people, so it's like that morning that it was released, I started getting texts and shit like, yo, Jay's dissing you in this new song. I'm like,
which is what, fucking 10, 15 years later?
Yeah, like 10 years later, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, that's probably not me. There's another MARZ with an S.
Yeah.
It's him. And they're like, no, it's fucking you, bro. Like, it's like your picture in the video. And I'm like, nah. So I watched it. And I remember thinking like, I was confused. Like, I haven't fucking mentioned you. Like, I didn't do shit. You know what I mean? Like, why, bro?
Yeah.
You know? And so my response was, I just took a picture with my kid. I have twin boys. You know, I took a picture with my boys, and I was like, I don't know, like, love you too, bro. Like, the fuck, I'm on some different shit.
For sure.
Like, why are you? What?
Yeah.
Which was confusing.
Well,
you know?
Especially because, man, I feel like one thing the clowns have done a lot is, like, a lot of people they've had beefs with over the years. Eventually, there came a point where there was a reconciliation, if you will. You know what I mean? And has there ever been a reach out from Psychopathic to the MARZ's camp about playing a gathering or any of those things?
No, nothing like that happened. I mean, so from that, then him dissing me again, you know, and I was fully in like my Christian zone. You know, from my side, it was just all like love and respect. I'm like, fuck, bro, do your thing, man. Like, yeah, fuck, diss me.
Right.
It didn't have this sting.
Okay.
Do you dig? Like when that
sure.
first shit came out.
No doubt.
It was just like, that's confusing to me. At that point even, I was making jokes like we should do a White Lotus album.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Like, flip the energy of it.
Okay.
Right? And I still would be open for that.
You would be.
I would be.
With who?
With the original people.
Well, that shit ain't happening. I mean,
I know, but I'm saying, like, because I think, I don't know what happened between them, right? From my prejudiced, preconceived notion, I have an idea of what probably happened and what probably caused it, what was the core of it. I think for me, you know, I'm a grown-ass man now, and I had to go through a lot of things, including therapy, to get to a place of healing. And like I was saying before we started recording this, you know, all of us have trauma, and until that trauma is resolved, that shit will never work.
Right.
You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Like, that shit will never work, because to resolve it, you have to see where you were also an asshole.
Right.
You know what I mean? And get to the point of like admitting it and not just being like, no, you did this shit to me and fuck you.
Right.
But I feel like I'm at that place.
It sounds like you're at that place.
Yeah, hell yeah. Like, bro, we fucking killed doing a White Lotus album. We would kill that shit on some grown man truth of life shit now. Where we at?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So from my perspective, man, I ain't got no beef with them.
What about, man, I talked a little bit about, before we started rolling, you know, just the fact that Twisted is currently sort of embracing that Juggalo history, tapping into that nostalgia, you know, and they currently are performing Lotus tracks, you know, like with the MNE crew. Is that something, if it didn't include the clowns, is a Lotus performance, is that something you would be interested in?
I would be open to it. I'd definitely be open to having a conversation, do you know what I mean? And seeing like, what's up, like, what are you thinking? But see, now the difference between Twisted and me is they are a part of that shit. They did create that shit.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? So them doing it, let's say if I did it, right? Like if I try to do some shit like,
you're gonna play
the
Lotus
Dark
versus.
Lotus. Right, that's not my shit really. I wasn't part of the history of that came up before that, which Twisted was.
Right.
So they have every fucking right to do that.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying?
Yes.
From my perspective.
Right.
You know, me doing it would be some goofy shit. Like by myself.
By yourself, yes.
You know what I mean?
But doing it with them is something that you do think would be dope too, at this point.
I would definitely be open to talking to them about it if that's something they would be interested in. You know what I mean? Like, hell yeah. Like, why the fuck not? I think, man, so many times in life, our own egos and our own fucking assholeness gets in the way of just do the fucking thing, man. Like think. I think about like the possibilities of what could have happened, right? How many albums, how many dope ass crazy albums could we have released? You know, been cool, or even now, so that's already over, right? So like, let's not dwell on that. Right. But even now, like, how much shit could be done? You know what I mean? Maybe it would never work. For me, it works. right? Because I'm at a place where I'm at a deep level of peace. I'm at a place where I spend enough time taking all my fucking karma back. You know what I'm saying? Which it comes to you, everything. You ain't gotta believe in it, but if you live long enough, you see that everything you do comes back to you. The good, the bad, all of it. It's all connected.
For sure.
Right? Whatever you do to somebody, you do to yourself. Believe that. And I feel like I spent the last decade taking that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like fucking knowing what was coming to me and being like, cool, give it to me. So I feel clean and I feel at peace. And I'm at a place now where I have no issues with causing something like that to happen. I think it would be brilliant. It would be fucking insane. Like imagine, and actually I would help therapy that shit.
It needs it, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like if we ever were in the room together, I would definitely love to fucking put all our shit on the table or bring, you know, I don't have problems anymore, but put the parties that have the problems on the table and be like, how do we grown man this shit right now? Some grown man shit, not no pretend shit, not no hiding behind masks. He says, she said this, or fuck all that. Like, let's fix this. Like, let's fucking solve this like some fucking warrior elders. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if we're fucking some Indian tribe of warriors, now we have enough fucking war experience. How do we fix this shit?
Bro, there's so many of us who are aching for it and who just can't understand why that can't happen.
It can.
You know what I mean?
I think it can.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it just, a lot of egos would have to be put in check.
Yeah, agreed. I think there's one big ego that ultimately prevents it, unfortunately. You know what I mean? And, you know, so here we are. This album came out, you know, what, 22 years ago, you know? Like, is there ever moments in your career where you stop and take a moment to positively reflect on Dark Lotus, what that time was, what that album was? Does it hold a special place for you at all, like it does for a lot of us?
No doubt. It's a part of my life. You know what I mean? So no doubt. And like what I was mentioning earlier, and you know, I don't know if like what I just talked about for the last 5 minutes or so, I don't want it to seem like, oh, here's this negative thing that happened and this happened and this negative energy, right? I think everything in our past has both sides. Even though most fucked up shit, if we're honest and if we're self-aware, like be honest, there was the beauty of it. There was something about it that was fucking beautiful, you know? And for me, in hindsight, there was so much about it that was beautiful, you know? The experience of writing that album, the experience of going on those tours, the experience, because after those shows, I would go out in the audience then and fucking meet people and all the people I met, like all the handshakes. And you know, and at that time when people would ask me for my autograph, I felt uncomfortable with like giving people autographs, so I would trade them. So after every show, I'd have pocketfuls of fucking people's autographs and shit, because it just felt weird to me because I just felt like, all right, I'll give you my autograph, but you give me yours. You know what I mean? And all that, like meeting all those people, the people's houses that we partied with, like that went to their homes. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, there was so much of it that was positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and helped me become who I am now.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, absolutely, man. Well, fuck, man, there it is. Tales from the Lotus Pod, an absolute Juggalo classic. MARZ, appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you guys, man.
Much love,
bro.
much love.
Yes,
there
sir.
it is, man. We out.